now on the Comics Cube with Dakota Alexander. How are you, Dakota?
I'm doing good, man. Great to be here.
So, uh, you've been on my show before, but for those of you who don't know, Dakota lives in Japan, but where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Santa Cruz, California.
Hmm.
So, yeah. For those who don't know, we're about an hour, just under 2 hours south of San Francisco, right on the upper side of the Monterey Bay. So,
Okay.
really, really lovely. That's where the Lost Boys are from.
There's a lot of Filipinos in California.
A lot of Filipinos in California. I mean, yeah, a lot of Filipinos in like Northern California, especially. Went to
You
high
li-
school
you
with quite a few.
you've been in Japan how long now?
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. All right, so
Almost
this
20
is
years.
this is interesting because when you look at the work that you do, it's very, very Bronze Age comics, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Dakota, we're here to plug Dakota's Kickstarter, which is called
Plug
The
me.
Hunter.
Yeah, that's right.
The Hunter #1, a superhero horror odyssey. If you take a look at the chat, the live chat, the link is right there where you can back it. Currently, it has 244 backers and it has 17 days left to go. It is currently at 10,051 US dollars. So we can talk about that because you've actually already exceeded your goal for this. Now, if you take a look at your cover for The Hunter, this is, if I'm remembering right, and my memory isn't what it used to be, this is an homage to a John Buscema Wolverine.
The cover that is probably getting more uh, visibility is actually a variant, and you're absolutely correct. We have a regular cover. It's cover A, and that is one of the hunter like down below with the wolf monster leaping towards him. That's the A cover. The B cover is our homage variant. Uh, and yes, absolutely is the homage to Wolverine 1. That was decided very quickly, very easily. We should do an homage cover. What should we do? Wolverine 1? Yeah, yeah. It was a very simple process.
Who
So
are you? So when you're coming up with these decisions, who are you talking to?
I am talking to my partner in crime, Judah Rad of Trouble Studios.
Okay.
And Judah has pretty much been with me since almost day one of this project, but I've known the guy for years. And
Mm-hmm.
I worked with him on his own projects, Caron 13, which he's on issue. He just shipped out issue number 2. So yeah, he's been my partner in crime throughout this whole thing. So that's why I'll
Tell
say we sometimes.
tell me your origin story. How'd you get into comics? Why do you love comics, and specifically why Bronze Age comics?
Uh,
That's your age, right?
right. Cool. Let me backtrack here. Why do I like comics? Why do I like comics? I'm terrible at these things. I think last time when I was on here, I was just like, I don't know. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what it was though. It was I grew up in that period of time, born in 79. So we had superhero cartoons. They were very much a regular thing. And then I was also lucky enough in my like middle school days. That's when Batman the animated series came out. So I've very much been able to track a lot of really great animated features over the years. So you grow up with the superheroes, and then you find a comic book. Someone brings you over a comic book. I think it was my neighbor, and I just immediately got into everything. I was introduced at a very, very young age to the Marvel handbooks. So all of these just amazing characters, just all in front of him, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then, you find the stories with the context in them. Um, at a very young age, when I got into it, probably about 7 or 8, I also started really getting into the art of it. So John Byrne, and I started like seeking out back issues, anything that had John Byrne art. So that also connects me to the early '80s. After that, it was just I I was sold, right? Why
Yeah.
Bronze Age though? Why Bronze Age? That's an interesting question because I wasn't exactly a Bronze Age kid. I followed the art, and the art happened to be Bronze Age. But I was in my teens or junior high school when Image came out, and I followed Image. I went to Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, moved
Yeah.
Sin City with Frank Miller, Hellboy, um, followed the Alex Ross stuff. Uh, got into college and pretty much partied, so I didn't really get into comics too much then.
I get
But
you.
after being in Japan for probably over 10 years at that point, uh, and just before the pandemic, I found uh, Facebook groups on, and it was like Bronze Age Marvel Facebook groups, and everything just kind of clicked in. Things I hadn't seen in so long, and I'd grown an appreciation of art that I hadn't necessarily appreciated before. John Romita Sr., John Buscema, Gil Kane, knew them, but they weren't as exciting as McFarlane was. They weren't as exciting as Jim Lee was. And what they are now is they're like the draftsmen that I really, really appreciate. And those Bronze Age Marvel covers that were meant to grab you and leap off the shelf and
Yeah.
entice you into like looking inside them because they had so much drama and action going on there. And and then
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, by and large, I do think, and I'm sure I'm biased, but I do think by and large the Bronze Age had the best. And by the best, I mean like the when I say the best covers, I mean they are the covers that if I see them on the shelf, I am most likely it's most likely to get my purchase. Because like when you get to the McFarlanes and the Jim Lees, a lot of them like look cool, but they don't really
Right.
tell you a lot of like what's inside the book, right?
That's right. That's right. And that was the beginning of the way covers have now become, because covers are essentially pinups. Uh, as storylines become decompressed and things like that, you can't make a cover that says this is what's going on in this book, because in some cases nothing's really going on in the book. It's between an A and a B story that could be happening at either end of something. So that's why you can have so many variants, because it's not directly related to the internal content, you know?
Well, I also think it has something to do with the fact that, like, when it was on a newsstand, it had to catch your eye. That was the only way, like, it
Oh,
was going to sell,
absolutely.
right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Whereas now it's like because everything is on pre-order, the cover doesn't have to sell the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to sell the book, but I think they're banking on it being, because I see more effort, in a way, more effort or more attention given to a cover than what's going on inside. Because I'll be like, great cover, look inside, ooh, uh, and I find myself. I went back to my LCS uh, over the summer of last year, you know, and I'm in there because I don't have the option of comic shopping much here. So I'm really like digging in and seeing if I can, walk away with as much as I can. And I'm picking this up and I'm like, interesting, not so interesting, interesting, not so interesting. It doesn't mean that that's always the case, but I'm saying that I think, they're banking on that cover more than I think that they're supplying the interior to reinforce it. In some cases,
In
it's
some
all
cases,
over the
yeah.
place.
A lot of the time, I think we have variant covers too, to because now we're selling the cover. It's a set cover
Oh
is what
yeah,
we're selling, right? But
yeah. Oh
anyway,
yeah.
yeah. So old dirty fatty in the chat says a lot of the image artists were inspired by Michael Golden, who was Bronze Age. That's true. Um,
Oh,
I think that's true.
blessed be Michael Golden. So I can only take so many books back when I go home, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a certain amount of weight. A while ago, I made absolutely sure that I grabbed, and this is, I much love this book. The cover fell off a long time ago, but this is Avengers Annual 10. And this is quite possibly one of the greatest Bronze Age single issues ever, ever made.
It's
Michael
amazing because
Golden
I
is an
know
absolute
exactly the
genius.
comic you're talking about.
It has such the misleading cover too. It's like just a Milgram cover, and it's like these things are in the book, and you're like, okay, sure. And then you open the book, and you're like, my God. Even the colorist, even the color artist, what's his name, Joe Rosen,
Yeah.
is going like he's upping up his game to work with this art. It's so wonderful, and it will
No,
fall
yeah,
apart,
dude.
but I'll read it.
Yeah, dude, because like with coloring technology the way it was back then, like whenever anybody did like an amazing job in coloring, like I appreciate this so much more now because I realize how much harder it was for colorists before digital.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and the entire approach, which is just like it's not to work on like tone and palette. It's like working on distinction of the images. I've got, I mean, it's the great thing. It's like, why are all the walls yellow? The walls are yellow because this guy is wearing a primary color like red or blue or black or whatever, and it has to stand out.
Yeah.
It's not following regular coloring logic. It's working on something entirely different. And you have to learn that, if you want to try and replicate that, you have to like break yourself away from like things that make sense to you in that respect, because you're doing things that are counterintuitive in some respects. But I love it so much.
By the way, if our viewers have fond memories of Avengers Annual number 10, please do put them in the chat because that is a very well loved comic book.
So good,
So
so
much so
good.
that the cover fell off of Dakota's copy.
Yeah, Michael Golden's underrated. He's
Michael
definitely underrated
Michael
in my
Golden is
opinion.
very underrated. Okay, so tell me about the fact that so this is amazing to me because you've lived in Japan for 20 years. And one would think that an artist such as yourself would get really into Japanese art instead, like manga or different types of anime. Uh,
Right.
and I hate I myself hate saying that because whenever I say like, oh, it's manga, and like I do realize manga has many different styles, but
It's like,
here you are
it's like
gravitating to.
yeah. It's like,
It's
do
like
you
saying,
like
oh, you like.
TV? Do you like television? Yes. Some of it. Do I like all of it? No. Manga is so ubiquitous, it's insane. Um,
Given that it's everywhere in Japan, how
right.
come you gravitated back towards, of all things, 1980s comics?
Um, hmm. Well, in a way, actually, there's a period of time. So I got back into drawing about 2013, and I was just doing it on paper with pen and maybe some colored pencils or something. A friend of mine got me into Photoshop, which changed everything. And oddly enough, one time for a friend's birthday gift, I made a ukiyo-e image of Wolverine versus Psylocke, and I really tried to make it look like the old ukiyo-e and stuff. And that actually was my first big foray into doing art, and I did that for like the next maybe 4 years,
Yeah.
predominantly. Um, why did I switch away from that? I switched away from it for two reasons. One, I was still trying to do like some regular art on the side, and I started getting a lot of commission work for that art. Um, the ukiyo-e stuff is I really really enjoyed crafting it and creating it and doing it, but it takes so much work and it's so time intensive, and I really had to like choose which I wanted to focus on because I really couldn't do the two of them. Once I shifted predominantly into doing traditional stuff, then I also started figuring out trying to do vintage coloring, and it was like you're drawing the Bronze Age image. You're like, this is cool, this is getting it, but it's missing something. What is it missing? It's missing. What is it missing? And you realize what it's missing is the colors and the texture and those things that do it. It's like when Marvel tries to reprint its older works, but it does it in those flat digital colors.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It just doesn't work. It's just not the same thing. But when
Actually,
you look at like a scan, I'm sorry.
yeah, well, I was gonna say old dirty fatty in the chat says he appreciates the non-sculptural color of the pre-digital age.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
so it's
Yeah.
very so yeah, anyway, go on.
Well, so who was I looking at the time? I don't know if you're familiar with the with an artist. He's a comic artist, but he deals in a lot of humor. His name's Kerry Callan,
Yeah, love
and
him.
love him, and wonderful dude. I just kind of got to know him like after I was working on the masters. We just kind of like cross paths on Facebook and really just occasionally just like chat and whatever. And what he was doing with his Sunday funnies and stuff, and how he was nailing that color displacement, mismatch, misregistration, and stuff. And I was just like, man, how do you do that? How do you do that? And he was going to tell me, and he was really busy. And then he backed away, and he's like, maybe I don't want to give away all my secrets. And I'm like, all right, okay. So what I did was I just studied what he was doing. I would like look at his pictures and just zoom in and like, okay, all right, so that's what I think he's kind of doing. And I just kind of followed suit in my own method, which was making like a dot layer and then coloring the dots and stuff like that underneath a flat layer, creating hazes and creases and things like that. And that's what I did. And that was how I was bringing myself closer and closer, because then I started making mock covers. And that was really, to me, it was like, I'm never gonna draw for Marvel, man. That's crazy. Plus, it sounds like it'd be really a pain in the ass. And like all this shit. And they might pay me all right. I mean, I'd be all right here in Japan because like cost of living is like extremely reasonable. But like at the same time, it's just like, like I don't know. You just never think you're gonna go anywhere with what you're doing, I guess, sometimes.
Get paid
So this
Marvel
is
rates while you live in Japan. Well, that sounds like
Marvel
a good
rates while I
deal,
live in
dude.
Japan would be all right. Would be all right.
Yeah.
We'd be doing really good because the Marvel rates if I lived in America are insane. That's ridiculous. Have you been seeing the Dustin Ewan?
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. I saw
Ooh.
that.
I mean, it's
But
nothing that we didn't already know, but damn.
he's out of
Yeah.
line, but he's right.
It's like people are angry. People are angry.
Yeah, I
You
get it.
know, I think Ryan Otley kind of like lit the flame for a few people when he like broke stuff down on that Ask Me Anything thing, and then other people are kind of jumping on the bandwagon. But either way, me making these covers was like me feeling like I got there, you know. And what was crazy was, and I was really posting them on some Reddits. That was doing okay. Instagram, so. But I was posting them in these like these vintage groups, these Marvel groups in Facebook, and people were they were losing their shit. And I was like, great, okay, I'll just post it here because this is where it's received. People
Yeah.
enjoy it here. That's great. And
It's because Facebook is
eventually,
where the middle-aged people are.
it's true. It's true. It's absolutely true. We can get into that a
I
little bit
I
better, but
am
I'll
there
tell you,
too. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
just saying.
you
Go ahead,
know,
sorry.
no, it's a trip because much of this Kickstarter, like half of it's funded from Facebook, like no joke, and
Yeah, okay.
that's wild because nobody looks at Facebook as like a profitable market for any of their like creative endeavors. It's just like it's one of the many things that you do, but not like, yeah, this is my vein to tap. Not,
there's
not
there's always a market for retro, right? People always want to, because like that's the kind of thing that people liked when they were younger. So
I thought so.
yeah, so let me ask you. I will get back to that later, but before we
Sure.
do, my friend JV says he discovered Avengers Annual 10 very late, but it's so awesome and it was worth the wait. And he's also asking regarding the Hunter,
Uh,
why did you set it specifically in the year 1981?
uh, so believe it or not, that actually I never and I might have made this clear at certain points elsewhere, but I've never wanted to draw the interiors of a comic book. And people have asked me for years, and I'm like, no, because it's crazy work. It's crazy work. It'll break your heart, kids. Don't do it. I'm gonna tell you, no, no. But when I came up with the idea and I committed to doing it, I thought I didn't want to do it in the 21st century because of the information age. I didn't want to have it where there were smartphone cameras, drone cameras, social media, meme culture, all this stuff for a couple of reasons. One of which was I can't fathom how you could possibly be a public figure like a superhero and maintain a secret identity with all the tech out there in the world. I honestly, that would be the elephant in the room for me constantly if I was writing it. I just
Yeah,
don't
you'd
think
have
that
to be a
it's,
billionaire.
you'd have to like be like so far removed from it or something like that. But even then, the fact that people aren't like putting two and two together, that was such a great thing about the Dark Knight was that like someone found out because someone would find out, you know. So that was A. B. Again with social media and meme culture and everything, I think also with modern superheroes, unless you're going grimdark or unless you're into the deconstruction of the superhero concept, modern superheroes in mainstream are they're approached with a level of irony, and I didn't want to do irony. I wanted something to be very very straightforward. So I was like, dialogue is also very ironic too, because we've evolved to this point. It's very cinematic. It's very much like, banter that you would see like on television or in a movie, which makes a lot of sense the way that they are decompressed and the way that their layouts are. But I didn't want that. So I was like, let's get away from that. And at the time, I was watching a lot of stuff that was going on that took place in the 80s or it was from the 80s, like Salem's Lot or Wolfen. And I had a bunch of my Bronze Age books from that time because I'd collect a lot of back issues and, Avengers Annual 10, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought, well, I'm already really aware of this style. So let's just put it here, 81. Roger Stern, Captain America, I just set
Yeah.
the book down and I was like, this is a good enough time. You can do a compressed story. You can do the caption boxes. Dialogue can be really expository if you can make it feel organic enough. Let's do that, and that way we'll have like 2 issue story arcs, and we'll keep it to that. And once that was decided, very very quickly it was like, and I just found out that, they do like the facsimiles are done on newsprint. So newsprint's an option somewhere. So we'll get it done on newsprint. And well, shit, if we're going to get it done on newsprint, let's really go full bore on the authentic coloring. And let's just add ads. And it just snowballed very, very easily into making it cover to cover authentic. So 81 was actually a narrative choice, but it immediately directed the focus of the book in that respect.
If you're just joining us, we are with Dakota Alexander, the creator of The Hunter, which is up on Kickstarter. Again, let me reshare the link into the chat so that you guys can go to the link and check it out. But Dakota, we've gone 20 minutes into this interview and I haven't asked you one, so this is on me. What is the book about?
All right. Simply enough, the book is about a superhero with antlers who fights monsters in 1981. Beyond that, it is the story of Stephen Conrad, who very much in 1980s television pilot formula finds a magical amulet, picks it up, and out pops the god Hearn, the British god of the hunt, and says that he has been charged by the pantheon of gods to go and hunt monsters that plague the mortal world. But I can't do it alone. I need an avatar. So if you imagine a cross between Ghost Rider and Firestorm, Ghost Rider being, the blunt instrument, you know, straightforward, doesn't talk too much, picks the shit out of everything around it, doesn't really think too much about, sides, just is very singularly focused, but also in the Firestorm sense that Stephen Conrad's also in that consciousness. So they will actually talk to each other. And the Hunter is just the combined form of them. Stephen Conrad's in the corporeal, the mortal world, and Hearn's in the ethereal, and they link up, and that becomes the Hunter. But Hearn himself actually looks quite a bit different. He looks more human. And
Given that,
Stephen,
yeah, good.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Stephen Conrad is also based on David Soul from Starsky and Hutch. I think he was
Given that,
Hutch.
given that you never wanted to do interiors, what made you decide to do this?
Um, so I was hung over on the couch, and
As it happens, yeah.
as it happens, just lying flat with my phone on my chest, listening to a YouTube channel about British cryptids. And the cryptid in question at the time was the stagman, a deer man, standing upright with the antlers. And I just started laughing to myself. I'm like, I wonder if there's ever been a superhero with antlers. Has there ever been a superhero with antlers? And I couldn't think of one. And the reason is because there isn't, because drawing antlers sucks, you know? So like, it's not a very efficient, you know, appendage, to add on to a character. Um, but then I was like, okay, so you have a superhero with antlers. What does he do? Well, he's a god. Who's the god? And they'd mentioned Hearn in the video. And I was like, well, it's Hearn. And why is he was he fight crime? Was he this? And I would just ask myself questions, and I would answer the questions immediately. And within about 48 hours, I had all the backstory, and I'd drawn up the character design. And it was so simple, and everything came so clearly that I thought, oh my God, this has got to be telling me something. And I just walked away from a commission that I was working on. I wasn't the client and I were not working out. And so I had this sudden kind of sense of like, fuck it, kind of freedom. Like, I'm gonna do my own thing, fuck working for people, even though really like 99% of everyone I've worked with has been really nice, but that's irrelevant. Um, and
This is the greatest answer to how did you come up with this idea ever? I was hungover on the couch. Drawing antlers
they
sucks.
didn't want to work for anyone anymore.
And I didn't want to work for anyone anymore.
Drawing interiors, but it had to be better than working for the man, right, man? No. Um, and it was the inspiration. You know what? A lot of everything that I enjoy about the art, making art, is being inspired. And if you have something that drives you enough, then it can actually, like, it can feed into you, and it makes things seem more attainable. And that's really been the case, is that, it's been a lot of work, but it hasn't been that hard to think of what I want to do with it. So it's made the experience something that I actually do enjoy. And this isn't just like a single issue. Like, we're going for a while with this, however long that's going to take, because I'm not that fast. But yeah, inspiration. Short answer. I was incredibly inspired, and I couldn't say no.
What happens in issue one?
Issue one is when it all gets set up. So um like any first issue back then, you've got to set up everybody, right? And you've got to find out ways to bring them into the book and scenarios and things like that. So uh we get our introduction to the Hunter in the first 6 pages, which you can, if you go onto the Kickstarter, you can see the first 6 pages of the book. And it's the Hunter fighting a wolf monster, which is not a werewolf, but actually a thing called a rougarou, which comes out of Cajun culture in like Louisiana specifically. It's kind of like a swamp werewolf, but like it's not related to silver, and it could change at any time. It doesn't need to have the full moon. And I wanted to do something that, you know, I like a werewolf, but can we do something that's not exactly a werewolf so that we can bring in new mythology to the story. Um, so we learn about we see the hunter, we see what the hunter can do in those 6 pages. We basically see his power set more or less. And then we're introduced following that, we're introduced to Stephen Conrad and our list of supporting characters. And then we jump right back in and we fight some more monsters. And this is going to be the first half of a two-part story. All stories will be 2 issues worth, very much in the
Okay.
Bronze Age.
And
It could be a spoiler.
all right, so if every story is 2 issues worth, Dakota, is this an ongoing or do you have an ending?
I have an ending, but I have an ending because I'm 46 years old, or I'm going to be 46 in May. And at the rate I'm going, if I go any more than 15 issues, this will take well over a decade. So that's me just thinking about my own age. But I have an ending. I'm going for about 15 issues. There is an underlying story arc as to the why everything is happening, why Hearn is hunting monsters, you know, what is going on with all of that, as well as story arcs for, you know, our character Stephen Conrad, some supporting characters, and and it's all thought out, believe it or not, which is
Okay.
another point. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you to do something for me, which is again for everyone. Let me just hold on. Let me just put this back up onto the chat to the so that you guys can take a look at it. Can you walk us through? Because as an artist, obviously to know the story, we're gonna have to back it and read it, right? But as an artist, can you walk us through the costume design for the hunter? Like what
Uh,
went into that?
okay. Uh, so again, it all started with the antlers, and I am really, really surprised that no one is giving me shit for making a character with antlers. I have no idea because I thought it was fucking hilarious. I was like, "Antlers, man! Ah, fuck it, let's just do it anyways." But everyone's just been like, "Looks so great." I'm like, "All right, okay. So you start with that. You start with that, and then of course you the original design was going to be a deer skull. And then I looked at deer skulls and I'm like, I'm not fucking drawing that all the time, which is why you're gonna hear a lot of like, man, I'm lazy shit when it comes to it. I'm trying to make this book look as great as it is, but as I can. But at the same time, I'm like, fuck, dude, come on, give me a break. So
Necessity is the mother of invention. It's fine.
that's right. That's right. That's right. And it's made me look at costumes from this point on. Like, get Wyatt, like, okay, I get you. So the mask, yeah, it's very Dr. Fate inspired, with some changes, obviously, to give it a little bit of distinction. But I love the idea that there was some kind of, almost a knight's sort of look to it. Hearn, as I was introduced to Hearn through an old Robin Hood TV show out of the UK in the early 80s. He has a grass cape, or grass and moss.
Yeah.
Um, since we're connected to the elk, basically the body is like a sleek fur. There's actually a bit of a description in the splash page about, what his look actually means. And then I was going with some Celtic mythos, so hence the circles here and here, and then of course you have something in the midsection to sort of break up. And then his chest piece is actually, it's inverted. It's meant to be pointed up like this, like a triangle as such. And that is the Trinity in Celtic knotwork, and it can mean a number of different things. Um, some people say it's the elements, some people say it's the life cycle. Christianity adopted it too, so they brought those. They suggested that's the Holy Trinity as well. I thought it looked really awesome. but I had to invert it so it looked better on his chest.
I get it.
Welcome to the Bronze Age.
No, I get it. I get it. Okay.
No one has been angry about me doing that yet, too. So cross your fingers. Like I know there's some people who take their Celtic heritage very seriously. No one's been angry with me. I'm very grateful to everyone saying like, no, it looks good. We appreciate it. And then these are oaken roots.
Yeah.
Hearn, the god, is actually connected to Windsor Forest, and he's connected to an oak tree. So that's why we're integrating oaken spikes or oaken limbs, things like that, into the power set. And I liked it. It was just something kind of neat. And he also has them around his ankles too.
Okay. All right. So let me go through the rewards of your Kickstarter. So for $1 you can pledge just to support it. For $5 you can get the corporeal digital tier. So you get a PDF of the comic. But this is a tactile experience, I think, because you're replicating 1981 comic. I feel like it should be read physically. But if you guys want to do digital, do that too.
Most of the pledges have been just for the single comic, which I'm so happy for that, because this being made into a physical experience is the whole point. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
For the Astral Digital tier at $8, you can get the PDF, a theme song.
Written by Jim Rad. The guy's a triple threat. Oh, I love it.
And
that's the theme song that's from our video, which you can see on the Kickstarter page.
And both covers for downloads for both covers, a digital wallpaper and a digital pinup. For $10, you get the standard cover, physically.
Yeah.
Cover A. For $15, you get the variant cover, the one that is based on Wolverine #1, physical. For $20, you get both. So really, there's really no reason to get just one. Is there? We should get both.
Right. You should get both.
Okay. And then for $30, you get both a pinup and your name as part of the book. And then for $45, you get both covers, a pinup, your name is part of the book, an enamel pin, and a Hunter wristband. For $60, you get all of that, plus the Hunter #1 secret wraparound. What is that?
It's actually not a secret. So if you go on to my Facebook page, I have actually the pencil work is posted, but I'll tell you for the most part, because I'm drawing the background digitally, but this is the wraparound.
Oh, look at that, man.
And so you're right about here on the front cover, and then this is going on the back, and it takes place in a sewer. So I'm adding on a bunch of sewer water. Very, 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 very much inspired by Craven's Last Hunt. The fights with vermin in the sewer were always, to me, just this fucking incredibly kinetic work. Mike Zeck at his absolute fucking peak.
Shout out to the great Mike Zeck and the best work he ever made, Craven's Last Hunt.
Really, it's a better graphic novel than most Marvel graphic novels of the time.
Yeah,
I love it.
I spoke to him at an event a couple of years ago. I was interviewing him, and I think everybody wanted me to ask about Secret Wars. And I did. I tried, right? I tried asking him about Secret Wars because
did he tell you how much it sucked having to make it?
Yeah, he obviously was not a fan of of Secret Wars, and I think he's on record for saying that.
I think he is on record.
He is on record for saying that. But every single time we got back to talking about Craven's Last Hunt, and it would always go back to Craven's Last Hunt because it's the best thing he's ever done. So it's so good.
It's so good. And he was like, the panel work, the covers, just the top of his game. So good. He is an artist that needs a little bit of time.
No, that's
Um,
true. That's true.
he needs a little bit of time. His Punisher mini and Kraver's Last Hunt are two just immense, immense pieces of work. And then his
Yeah.
covers for 10 Nights of the Beast, that Starlet Aparo miniseries with the KG Beast, those covers are so utterly gorgeous.
The
Just amazing.
every cover he did for GI Joe.
The cover did for GI Joe, and all of the covers he did for Captain America. Like, I would like to suggest
Uh,
that he was the person who had the best covers of the 1980s for Marvel. I would
I
honestly suggest that that could be the case.
legit, I'm not going to argue that. Like I'm not going to argue that at all because but I'm going to have to think about it, but I'm not going to argue it.
Right. Well,
Right.
if nothing else, he still had that Cap annual with the Wolverine and Captain America, which could easily be one of the most iconic Marvel covers of the 1980s.
That's one of them. There's every cover for Craven's Last Hunt.
Every cover for
Absolutely.
Craven Last Hunt, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, the Deathlock stuff that he did, and then of course there's the airbrush work for the entire Punishment. Anyways, what we're saying, folks at home, is that Mike Zeck is really good at what he does, and you should really read as much of his stuff as you possibly can.
He's amazing.
So
He's amazing.
he's absolutely amazing, and definitely one of the reasons why I was like, I want a furry monster creature with, like with tattered fucking pants. That's what I want. That's what I want for my first monster, because I loved it so much.
The $120
Just
package
sold
is
out.
sold out, so I'm not going to bother telling you what's in there. But the $300 package is everything I just said, plus a jumbo-sized, one-of-a-kind sketch from Dakota Alexander.
So the reason why the 121 is actually sold out is because it had a sketch, and we had like 16 of them in like 4 days, 3 days. And I was like, I'm not doing any more sketches, selling it out. And so we created the 300 one, and someone still went and bought it. I'm just like, God damn it. It's like, I've got so much work to do. And some people
Yeah.
are like, hey, can I get this and this on mine? I'm like, no. And he's like, that's cool. But yeah, so I don't want to double up on my workload as it is, because as it is, um I'd like to point out that not only am I writing, penciling, inking, coloring, I'm also lettering the book. So I'm just very busy. That's what I'd like to communicate to the
You
viewers.
literally went from I never want to make interiors to I am doing all of this stuff now.
We had a letterer, and he just couldn't commit. And he taught me a couple of things when he was still on board. And I was like, well, we gotta get the book done. We can find another letter. I'm like, no, I'll just fucking do it. Fuck it.
All right, I'm going to close this off, Dakota, with one question, and feel free to take your time on this one. Okay, so
I do ramble. I apologize.
well, no, I feel free to take your time on this one because I do, as with everybody else, I do get attracted to retro comics, right? But I do think that some retro comics offer you something new, while some retro comics just kind of retread what's been, it's like I'm not gonna name it, but like I was reading a retro comic from the '90s and it was set in the '50s, and I was like, why don't I just read the '50s comic? You know what I mean?
But you have, though, you have read this, though, haven't you?
That's exactly what I was
That's
saying. That like it offers something new, right?
oh, oh, it's so God, there's so much love in here. You just feel it.
Yeah, dude,
Sorry,
that
go
is
on.
like that is for example, right? The 1963 stuff that is old school Marvel style with like modern day science,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Or at the time, what was modern day science or scientific theories and stuff.
Yeah.
So, my question is, what makes like if you were to put the Hunter
Mhm.
in the 1980s. You have a time machine, you can time travel, you put it on a newsstand in the 1980s next to all of those comics back in the 1980s. Tell
Uh-huh.
me, tell me why a young Dakota Alexander who didn't know that his future self would make this would end up buying picking that comic out of the other comics on the newsstand. This is the most complicated way to ask that question, but I found it, but I managed to
Well, we got
overcomplicate.
there, but I got there though. So, so now you want to answer it. Well, oh, man, I'm always the worst person with these kinds of things. Like if someone asks you, like, "What's your favorite band?" and I'm like, I don't know. What am I feeling at the time? I will say that I was always attracted to really, really good action, well choreographed action, and there's something that I'm trying to do with this, especially since recently action in a lot of superhero books seems to take kind of a backseat to, you know, uh, dialogue and banter and canon moments and writing. Writing is really, really in a more focal point. And action is not as much. What you'll get is you get like splashes and stuff, and they'll look amazing, but you won't get a lot of choreographed action. I'm really bringing back choreographed action where, if you look at the so many pages of like the fight between the Rougarou and the Hunter, it's very much like he grabs him, his other hand comes down, brings the hand back up. There's an actual step by step to what's going on, and I'm bringing that in there. There's another thing that I don't know necessarily if it would have been as important to me, but it might have been important to someone else in that time period, is that while we are sticking to the comics code in the sense that everything is very PG, like we're not doing blood, or we're not doing any kind of like major sex or violence or any of that kind of stuff. It's just like if you were reading a comic at that time, that level of, let's say, mature rating, I guess. However, we are acknowledging that same-sex couples exist.
Oh,
And and so that's the one thing why we're actually not the comics code, we're the trouble code, because they wouldn't clearly acknowledge that at the time, which is their loss. Um, and trying to approach groups, cultures with a little bit more authenticity. So the same couple, the reason I bring that up is that's actually a major supporting character. Stephen's brother James and James's partner Carlo. And they're in the book just like anyone else would be in the book, like any couple would be in the book. There's nothing to them other than the fact that they are exactly who they are. And what are they bringing but couple energy? Um, it was brought, up to me like when we deal with certain things, will I have a sensitivity reader? And I will. At the moment, in the first issue, it's basically just a phone call between him and his brother, and they're just talking. So I'm not bringing that in because I don't need to. People just talking on the phone or people talking on the phone. People are people. They just do stuff. But we are going to also address elephant in the room, like with bigotry and people trying to hate crime and things like that later on in the book, and that becomes part of his brother's story arc, and his brother starts becoming a major character as well, because like Stephen and his brother are going to end up going to Japan together and things
oh, they
like
go to
that.
Japan.
I couldn't leave it out. Also, I'd like to point out to you that not in this issue, but spoilers, in the next issue, we are bringing in Aswan as well.
Oh, that is awesome, and I appreciate it.
Um, do you want to know what I'm going for? Or do you want to be surprised?
You may. This is a.
I know.
If there are any Filipinos in the chat, tell me if you want to know what Dakota's going for, or if you
Because
want to be
I'm
surprised.
I
Because you can always tell me off camera.
I can
But
I can.
but if any Filipinos in the chat want to know what kind of a swung Dakota is going for with the next issue, please let me know. If
Yeah,
nobody
that
responds, just tell me off camera.
I'll tell off camera. But I will say this. I will say this, especially as I was like, watching a lot of cryptid stuff. Aswang are fucking up there, man. They're so fucking compelling because like the shit that you got, like your tick belongs, you got your mononagals, it's just like the more and more you learn about them, you're like, this is fucking nuts, man. This is so interesting that I was like, I have got to put these monsters, like you have your werewolves, your vampires, it's all been done. Let's bring this other shit in because it's so fucking fascinating. Same
Dude,
thing with like certain yokai, some creatures out of like some cryptids out of Africa. I love it. So
I'm
much
just
folklore.
I'm just gonna go ahead for the non-Filipinos who are watching. I'm just gonna describe a couple of these guys. A manananggal is kind of like a vampire, except it segments itself from the top half and the bottom half. So at night it turns into a monster, it flies around, and then its guts are still showing because its bottom half is off just like in its room or wherever it is. A, a tikbalang is a man-shaped horse.
Right, right,
Think 3030 from Bravestar, except not mechanical.
right.
And it will lead you into a forest and get you lost. And I don't know if you know this, man, but the only way to get back to your path is if you take off your shirt and wear it inside out, and then
How
it'll
had I
take you
not
back.
heard? But I do know, like about some of the more recent Netflix animes. There's an anime with the tick belong, like he's got like tats and stuff.
I think
The
so, yeah. Yeah, like
yeah,
Tressa
yeah,
was on
yeah,
it.
that's right, Trece.
Yeah, that's a
And
Filipino one.
yeah, no, well, Aswang, man, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So my friend JV says yes, he wants to know, and it's cool that you know your Filipino folklore. What are you going for?
Mananagal.
Oh, you hear that, dude? He's doing the self-segmenting viscera sucker.
I'm going to make one small concession on the Liberty in the sense that I know the legs are supposed to just remain, you know, immobile, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna have the legs move because I need it for part of the plot to get someone from A to B.
that's fine.
I was just like, as you know, or I think I've told you, I work with a lot of Filipinos. So
Yeah.
like I've been like, man, would that be okay? And they're like, they were so stoked that I just knew what the fuck a Mononagal was. That they were like, what you want, man?
I was gonna say we
It's
don't
fine.
care.
It was pretty cool. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like, you want to bring like a level of authenticity because the lore itself is interesting enough as it is. It's so fucking wild. It's so wild, man. And then like all the different ways that you're supposed to kill it. Like I didn't know about garlic. I just knew that like you could stab or you could eat them if you hang them upside down to get the bird out, to get the black chick out. Just like I'm
If
like, this is so wild. I love it.
Yeah, the traditional way is you find its bottom half and then you pour salt on it. It'll prevent
Right.
it. There goes my microphone. It'll prevent it from reattaching.
Reattaching,
Uh,
right? And the legs will hide amongst like the banana trees and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, it'll try to hide, but then like if it doesn't reattach by sunrise, then it dies.
Right. That's the other thing too, is that with when you're dealing with folklore monsters, like another Bronze Age element was like you shouldn't just defeat something with your power set. You should have to be kind of clever. You should have to,
It's
be
true.
forced into parameters, to work around it. The power shouldn't be how you win. The power should be like to help you, but you have to be clever and things like that. So learning how to defeat monsters without just beating them, that's one of the points of the Rougarou. The Rougarou is like when it's the full moon, it's damn near fucking unkillable. It's like a fucking cockroach just keeps bouncing back. So like the hunter's just like, fuck, what the hell? And so we have to like, bring in other other approaches to do it, because I think that's part of what drama works with action, suspense. Um, yeah. So extra folklore, a little bit more marginalized group awareness, normalizing marginalized groups, bringing them into representation, and not necessarily. I got nothing against like the soapbox. If people want to like do the soapbox, my book's not really about that, but I still think you can have representation authentically, regardless.
Dude, honestly, like just having characters, representative characters, or like I'm a Filipino, I'm used to not being represented, period.
Right.
So like
Right.
just having them in there is like some people will think you're on a soapbox anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah. I'm
even if
waiting.
you're not really doing anything.
I'm waiting for people to like get the book and like find out that there is a gay couple on one page, and then just like coming back at me with like their guns blazing. I hope that's
So
not the case.
I thought you were one of us.
Yeah. I I would love to just clap back with like, what did you want, a trigger warning or something? Like, what do you need, bro? But that joke will get tired after like the 50th person, I suppose. At the moment, I have posted segments of that actual page on my Facebook.
Oh, really?
No one's flipped out, so I hope. I'd like to think that you can do it. I'd like to think that the format can help people enjoy things, but some people just want to be angry about shit unnecessarily. So what are you gonna do?
Well,
I leave it to be what it is.
long may we talk about the things that we like to talk about
That's right.
instead of the
That's right.
things that we don't like to talk about.
That's
I
right.
do,
You
I
can't
do,
control everything.
I do want to say that again, old dirty fatty in the chat says that your cover pops off the stand. The composition is powerful, even if it is an homage. So congratulations.
That's all I can ask for. I am really kind of surprised that with all the creators, because there's more comic books being made now than ever before, just even in the West, but I mean, there's just more content always, that no one seems to have done this. And that's wild to me. People coming up like, no one's doing this, man. That's crazy. And I'm like, that is crazy. Really? No one? I mean, you're more aware of what goes on in the comic scene than I am. I just mostly just draw
Uh,
and find shit. But like people are telling me that no one's really doing it. Like some people get a little close to it, but everyone's saying that I'm doing something a little bit more different or whatever. And I find that hard to believe, because I don't think that there's much room for originality at any point in this time. So
well, I'll tell you my dirty little secret. Like people think that I keep up with all of the developments in comics and stuff. I really don't. Things just pop up on my social media,
all right. Well,
right?
but I mean, it's you're aware of it. I mean, how deeply involved you are in it, though.
Yeah, so like sometimes I'm not even aware that like I don't know, uh, this person is writing Batman or something. Like I have no idea until somebody tells me like later on, oh yeah, Chip Zdarsky's on Batman now. I'm like, since when? Like 3 months ago. I'm like, really? You know?
And even then, it's like it's a cause for contention. I'm like, I thought he did things that everybody likes. No, it was terrible when he was on that one book, and I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. Oh well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did pick up or not pick up, but I digitally read the first three issues of Batman and Robin Year One, and I don't like Robin,
Oh,
but I really like that book. Really like that book.
Mark Waid and Chris
Chris
Samney are
Samney.
like one
They
hell of a
honestly bat a
team.
thousand. They bat a thousand.
Dude,
I don't
yeah,
think there's
like
anything I haven't enjoyed.
I actually just started reading their Black Widow run because I was like, why have I not read this? you
And
know?
why didn't they use that as the blueprint for the Marvel movie? My God, so good.
That's not yeah.
I loved oh, that's such a goddamn good book. Everything about it, right down to the color art, just
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The
nails it.
coloring, yeah. Did
Matt
you see
Wilson.
that? Did you see that that scene in Batman and Robin Year One where Bruce shows Dick just how big the cave is?
Oh, it's
Oh
not just
my
a cave
God.
that goes out of the city, so he can go in through all the different rooftops. I'm like, I love Mark Wade. Mark Wade breathes life into everything he touches.
He
And
does.
I mean, he brought Flash. He took Flash into the next level. He brought Cap back, brought Daredevil back from the fucking mud pit that we kicked into him. The Brubaker run was so rough. I was exhausted reading it. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't that at all. It was the fact that like, let's no, it's fine. We're gonna punch Matt some more. And then you get back and like Paulo, first of all, it's Paulo Rivera, which is wonderful. And then Chris Samney like really starts to cut his teeth. Man, that run was so legit.
So good. So good.
And it's like the kind of run that like people who are burnt out and think that, current books are too serious, they're too long-winded, or this or that and the other. I'm like, well, you want to have some fun, read this. And
Right.
it's always gotten a wonderful, wonderful response, even from like people who are like, I've quit comics and all that hyperbolic language and all that shit. You can turn them on to that and they'll still enjoy it.
You
Absolutely.
are absolutely right. Like there's so many comics being made right now that
Yeah,
I swear, guys, you will find something that you like. And
absolutely.
and hopefully for some of you watching right now, that is The Hunter #1 up on Kickstarter.
We've done colossally well for we're not even done with our second week, and I can't believe we just broke 10K. That's kind of nuts.
I know you still have 17 days left to go. So
I don't even know how to promote this anymore. I'm like,
well,
okay.
here's my question for you because this is how I'm gonna close this off. Okay, so what happens in Kickstarter for everyone not in the know is this. Once you go past your goal, there are these things called stretch goals. So stretch goals have added, what do you call it? Have added goodies whenever
Added
you reach a
rewards,
certain
added
added
rewards.
rewards whenever you reach a certain stretch goal. So Dakota's original goal was $2,000. Once he reached
Yeah.
$2,000, everybody gets a free digital copy of Karen 13 #1. What is that?
Caron.
Karen. Okay.
All right, good. Like you lift the car on kind of thing. Car on 13 is Judah Rad's own book. It is the reason that Trouble Studios came to be. I'd also like to point out this is the Trouble logo, which actually I designed.
But
I was with Judah at the very beginning when he wanted to make this. It is a spy-fi comic, so James Bond in the distant future. Um, so he has Car on 13 1 and 2. Issue #1 is illustrated by the wonderful Alessandra Imperio, and issue #2 is illustrated by Nico Keme. Both are really, really wonderful books, and they're a lot of fun.
so because you reached $2,000, everyone now gets a copy of that, right?
We like Oprah, man. Check underneath your seats.
Right. And then once you reach $2,500, everybody also gets issue number 2 of Karen 13.
Right.
At $3,000, everyone now gets all physical backers now get a free The Hunter #1 bookmark. And then at 4,000, which you already passed, all the physical backers also get the Hunter #1 sticker.
You
And
can
then
tell
at
we didn't really
five
think we were going to make that much money.
and then at 5,000, the Hunter #1 trading card for all physical backers. Here's my question, Dakota. You are now at 10,051 US dollars for this Kickstarter. You stop the stretch goals at $5,000. You have
We're
17 days left to go.
we got another stretch goal coming in actually.
Do you want to announce it here?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think we can. What we are going to now we're looking into is the Hunter amulet. So the very amulet that Stephen Conrad finds out of the oaken chest, the secret compartment, and that connects him to Hearn. We are going to be making our own little facsimile of that for everyone, so that they themselves can summon the hunter within and fight the monsters that plague their lives. Do you like that? You
Do
like
you
that?
guys want to summon the hunter within yourselves? Then please. So what
Fight
number
your
do we get?
monsters.
What do we need? What number do we need to get the amulet?
Uh, was it? I'm not sure if it was 10, because it would make sense if it was 10, but or if we go for
If it
12.
was 10, you already passed it.
No, it's 10 already passed it. But we this is a red letter day. We passed 10 like 4 hours ago, or like 5 or 6 hours ago. So we were like, we might get to 10. This is kind of cool. And then we get to 10 and we're like, we're halfway through, man. Like, we really don't know where this is going at this point. It is wild to think that so many people are so interested in this book, which makes me very, very happy. But also, it kind of reinforces when I was talking about inspiration, it reinforces the idea that I was on something. Like, this is a good idea. This is something that I think I'd like, and other people seem to be enjoying it as well. So we'll see. I mean, if it gets to 15, man, I have no, I'm not even gonna have any words. So
Dakota Alexander, congratulations for everybody who is watching this, and if you're in the chat, thank you for joining us tonight. Please
thanks, Doy.
support Dakota's Kickstarter for the Hunter over on Kickstarter. The link is in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dakota. This was a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.
We're done. Awesome, dude. That was fun.
Man, I